joining us. Thank you for being on time. Before we get started, I'd like to remind everyone about our meeting format. Tonight's Planning Commission meeting is being held in person and online. Commissioners, Planning Department staff, and members of the public are attending in the Wheat Ridge City Hall or by way of the Zoom platform. Members of the public who are not present and wish to make comments may participate virtually by joining through Zoom, either on a device or by calling in. A Zoom meeting link and dial-in information can be found on wheatridgespeaks.org. In addition to being online via Zoom, we are also broadcasting this meeting on Channel 8 and wheatridgespeaks.org. When it is time for public comment, and there are several public comment periods tonight, those who wish to comment on our Zoom connection use the raise your hand button. If you are dialing in, press *9 to raise your hand and *6 to unmute your phone. If you plan to speak online tonight, please keep background noise to a minimum. If you do not plan to speak, we recommend you simply view the meeting live by watching on Channel 8 or on wheatridgespeaks.org. We appreciate your participation in tonight's meeting. We hope to create a friendly and respectful atmosphere for public dialogue, and we appreciate your help in this process. I would now like to call to order the City of Wheat Ridge Planning Commission for May 2nd, 2024. May I please get a roll call of the members?
Thank you, Chair Disney. Commissioner Shelkey?
Here.
Commissioner Holub?
Here.
Chair Disney?
Here.
Commissioner Gravy?
Here.
Vice Chair Quinn?
Here.
Commissioner Kearns?
Here.
Commissioner Moore?
Here.
Commissioner Quinones? Commissioner Quinones is absent. All right.
The next order on the agenda is the Pledge of Allegiance. Please stand and join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The next item is approving the order of tonight's agenda. Let's see. We're going to do this by consensus. Does anyone have any changes to the agenda? Seeing none, may I have a motion to approve the order of the agenda?
I move to approve the order of the agenda.
Second.
Second. And we're going to vote by saying aye. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Passes. Next, we will vote to approve the minutes from our last meeting. Is there a motion to approve the minutes from the April 18th, 2024 meeting?
Move to approve minutes of April 24, 2024 meeting, or April 18th, 2024 meeting. Second.
Are there any additions or corrections to the minutes? Nope. Seeing none, please vote by saying aye for yes.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. We will now open the general interest public forum. This is the time for any person to speak on any subject not appearing on the agenda. If you plan to speak on an item that is on tonight's agenda, please wait until we get to those items. All speakers are asked to limit their remarks to 3 minutes, and speakers may not donate their time. Is anyone signed up to speak?
No, Madam Chair.
Is there anyone on Zoom?
No.
Let's see. All right. I'm going to close the public forum, seeing how there is no one wishing to speak tonight. And next on our agenda is we have no public hearing tonight. There are no cases to be heard. And the next item is going to be our presentation on the city plan.
Thank you, Chair Disney. At this time, I would like to present our senior neighborhood planner, Ella Stevie. I don't think that you've met her in person yet, but she's been here for, gosh, a few months now, so she's been busy working. And then she'll go ahead and introduce the CZB team, the consultant team, and then they'll present.
Thank you, Jana. So I'm Ella Stevie. I'm a senior neighborhood planner. I'm sorry I couldn't join you in person tonight. You may hear I am sick, and so I wanted to keep my germs to myself. So I look forward to joining you in person next time. So I am the project manager for the city plan. Right now tonight's meeting is almost the end of wrapping up our first phase of public engagement. So in April, we kicked off that first phase with the city council study session and open house, and then our steering committee meeting. Since then, we've had our online survey up and running, and it's still going to be available through the end of the day tomorrow. But then tonight, we get to dive into the details with all of you. So tonight, we'll run through some slides. You'll may have seen in your packet that you have a lot of information, a lot of existing conditions data. We're not going to present all of that tonight because we do want to focus on our discussion. However, our consultants would be happy to answer any questions that you have about that content. Yeah, we really just want to focus on the discussion tonight. Before I hand it off, I do want to point out we have some swag for you. If you didn't already see it, since I'm not in the room, I can't see where it is. I think it's in the back of the room, but Jana can confirm. Please help yourselves if you haven't already after the meeting. So our consultant for the city plan is CZB. You may know them from some of their previous work in Wheat Ridge. But without further ado, I want to hand it over to them, and they're going to lead our discussion. So CZB, thank you.
Great, thank you, Ella. Good evening, commissioners. My name is Matt Ingalls. I'm with CZB, and also have two of my colleagues here, Thomas Eddington and also Eric Aming. You might know both Eric and Thomas from previous work in Wheat Ridge. I'm actually new to Wheat Ridge and absolutely thrilled to be here to be part of your city plan. So I do have a few slides. Jana, I am getting host disabled participant screen sharing.
Okay. Okay, give me 1 second.
Sure.
You should be good.
Okay. Yep, there we go. Okay. Everybody can see that?
Yeah.
Awesome. All right. Let's go to introduction. So in addition to myself and Eric and Thomas, we also have Charles Bucchi, president of CZB. He's been in Wheat Ridge a number of times over the last, I think, 15, 20 years, long history with the city. And also we have Lauren Holm, who is not with us tonight. But Lauren is really involved from the start, and she's helping Eric with the project management stuff, and also kind of our lead on a lot of our engagement and working with the consultant team as well as the city to coordinate that. So we have a few things we want to cover tonight, and then we really want to spend the bulk of the time talking with you folks about what you think are key components that need to be addressed in the city plan. We want to talk a little bit about what we think are key elements of a successful plan, process and timeline, and then we'll get into our discussion about what we refer to as the big things and making sure we get the big things right. So in terms of project overview, there are three really important components that we think make up a great comprehensive plan. The first one is getting the big things right. And when we refer to the big things, we think these are the things that are so important that they require special attention and resources to make sure that they're handled actually correctly. So these, what typically end up being the priorities in the plan, we usually hear about these things early on in the process, and we hear over and over and over. And then we begin to understand those things. And the plan begins to flesh out how to resolve and develop strategies to address those big things. So we'll talk a little bit about those big things here in a few minutes, because we started collecting thoughts on what those big things are from the very beginning with our kickoff with the steering committee in March, and then also with the most recent engagement in April with the community as well. We also think a great comprehensive plan plans for what is known. There are some key trends and issues that we need to understand, that we want the community to also understand, so that way they can make choices about desired outcomes. These often kind of center around demographic trends, economic trends, the things that we can collect data and understand. And we want to make sure we get those right, and we plan for the things that are known from those key trends. And then another key component of what we think a great comprehensive plan includes is creates a decision-making framework for what is unknown. So there are going to be things that maybe even before we finish this process, and certainly after the comprehensive plan is complete, there are going to be things that surface that we just had no way of anticipating. We don't have a crystal ball. So we want to make sure that the comprehensive plan or the city plan creates a decision-making framework that begins to guide decisions on those things that we just have no way of knowing here in April of 2024, which is now May of 2024. So we think that those things tend to focus on core values, community core values, as well as the associated planning principles. So together they help form that decision-making framework. But we also think a great plan really begins to focus on what we as a community, what Wheat Ridge can say yes to. These are the things that we want to make sure we get in the plan, and that they focus on the positive things. There's going to be a lot of discussions about implications and trade-offs and those types of things as we move through the process. But ultimately, we want the plan to focus on the things that we can say yes to.
Matt, I'm sorry to interrupt you. It looks like it's sharing not quite full screen. It's still showing like the preview one, and I know some of your future slides have a lot of information.
Let's see. It's kind of weird.
If that's a quick fix, then I just wanted to say I unfortunately don't know how to.
Just need to go to the full slideshow view, Matt.
Yeah, that's what I have on my screen. Let me see here. Let me try it again. Let me do something here before we get too much further. I'm going to stop sharing. Yeah. Huh. Because it won't let me go back and share if I start the presentation full screen ahead of time.
I think sometimes it's like which screen it's picking up.
How about now?
It's still the presenter view.
That is weird.
Matt, I'm happy to take over.
Hold on. Let me try one more thing here. Oh, no.
There you go.
There you go. Yep.
All right.
Thank you. Sorry to
I'm glad you pointed that out,
derail you.
because I have two monitors going, and I didn't look at the other monitor. The actual full screen is on the other monitor.
I think Zoom always picks the wrong monitor. So
Yes.
thank you.
Okay, absolutely. All right. Okay, so we have 3 phases for the comprehensive plan process. Phase 1, we call it the discovery phase, which we kicked the project off in January, but I think our first meeting with the committee was in March. And then we had some preliminary assessments that I think Ella mentioned that was in your packet, some demographic and economic analysis, and then we also just completed the first round of engagement a few weeks ago here in April. And we're beginning to move into phase 2, the envision phase, which will have 2 rounds of community engagement. As part of that phase, we'll roll up our sleeves on some focus area planning, and we'll begin to develop some preliminary components and concepts that we'll be bringing to the committee and also to you folks as well as the public towards the end of summer. And then also we have phase 3, the plan development, the last phase. We'll have another round of engagement as part of engagement round 4. This is where we produce the draft plan, we gather feedback on the draft plan, and then begin to move towards the final plan through the adoption process. So you can see that the 3 phases spread out over the course of 15 months. As I mentioned, we kicked it off in January with a project initiation, and then had our first steering committee meeting in March. And unfortunately, that was the same time you guys had the big snowstorm, and Thomas and I and the committee were all in town, but we ended up doing it from Zoom from our hotel room. So, but we were back there a short time later in April, met with the committee again, also had an update with the city council, as well as the first round of community engagement with our open houses. And then that concluded phase 1. We're in the start of phase 2. It'll take about 6 months to complete. You can see there on the slide that we have engagement round number 2 and engagement round number 3 as part of that. And that will take about 6 months, and it will include some scenario planning and small area planning as well. And then towards the end of the fall, we'll be starting the final phase of the project and should have a draft plan well before the end of the year. And you can see on there at the bottom of the screen, that slide, we'll be meeting with not only the steering committee and the public, but also the commissioners as well as the city council at each one of those points in the process as well. So in terms of overall community engagement, we use a high-tech, high-touch approach. So we'll use a combination of online and in-person tools and events. We'll have online surveys. We'll have in-person events, open houses, and other kind of workshops throughout the process. We also have a project website that we'll share here in a minute with What's Up Wheat Ridge. And then we'll also have targeted intercepts where we'll have opportunities to talk and present at key points in the process as needed with key stakeholders. So you can see here from What's Up Wheat Ridge, the public can sign up and join the conversation. There's also the online survey that is still open. We launched this just before the engagement in April. It will close actually tomorrow evening at 5 o'clock. So we'll certainly, if you haven't been there, you can go out and take a look at that and take that survey if you didn't have a chance to participate in the community open house. Okay. So any questions about process, anything like that, we're happy to answer those. If not, we'd like to get into what we consider big things and a discussion with you folks about what you might think the big things are that the city plan must get right. So again, these are the things that the planning process should address and that the community will be asked to help prioritize these things. But these are so important that they're likely to play a lead role in determining whether the city of Wheat Ridge is a better place in 10 years from now.
Hey, Matt.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. This is Dan Gravy. I'm a District 2 commissioner. I had a quick question about process and engagement. I know that I attended the open house, and I know that the survey has been open, and I'm hoping I know there was good turnout at the open house. I'm hoping there's good turnout at the survey. I'm wondering, do you all do any directed outreach? For instance, the open house, obviously there's folks that are more able to attend that sort of event, and I know it can kind of skew some of the demographics in terms of who's engaging, and obviously some of that is addressed with the survey being completely available. But is there any kind of targeted engagement with certain parts of the different demographics in town?
I can jump in on that. And this is LSDV. kind of this first phase, we're just trying to get the word out as much and as broadly as we can. Part of what we will be evaluating at the end of this round is, sorry, my voice is kind of going away. We are going to be, we've asked, as you saw at the open house, we asked people to fill out a basic demographic form. We've also been getting that same information online. So what we are going to do is look at the demographics of who we heard from in total, and how that compares to the city as a whole. We're also looking at geographies. You know, we ask people for their kind of cross streets, so we know if there are areas that we're missing. And then part of our outreach strategy has been targeted things like targeted Facebook ads. So if there are demographics or areas that we are missing, we do have some levers that we can pull to make sure we correct for that in this second phase. So it's something that we will be tracking and tweaking as we go to make sure, as you said, that, you know, it's certain kinds of engagement are easier for certain kinds of people. So making sure that we are being very targeted in areas where we're missing certain voices.
Great, thank you, appreciate that.
Great. Any other questions regarding process, schedule, before we get into our discussion? Okay. So if anybody has anything to share on big things, we'd love to hear them. These are the things that, you know, you think that this city plan needs to focus on and make sure that we get right.
I'm new to this process, so I'm not sure if these were considered big things, but I think that a few themes that would be important would be sustainability, as well as mobility. Those would be a few of the big things that I feel will make our city go the direction we want it to go.
Great. Yeah, good things. Those are two things that we have heard a number of times up to this point, so they certainly could be part of the big things, especially mobility. I think that's one thing that we heard loud and clear right from the start with a kickoff with the steering committee in March, and then we heard it certainly through the public process in April. Anybody else want to share?
Sure. This is Will Kearns with District 3. I have two big things. One is housing diversity and affordability, if that is achievable still today, and I think it is. My second is activation of the Rocky Mountain Ditch into a greenway. I'd like to make it a long-term goal, and I know it's hard because it's working with a ditch company, and they are not easy to work with. They have some of the original land use right, but look at the example of the Highline Canal Trail. It's a huge attraction and benefit for those communities that it runs through. Somebody had to work a process with the Highline Canal Ditch Company in order to make it happen, and it seems to be working great. The ditch runs and flows and can be maintained, and it still allows public access. So I think that the Rocky Mountain Ditch through Wheat Ridge, we also have a opportunity here. And it's going to be a process, but I just wanted to mention that it's a long-term goal of mine, and I think it could be a real benefit to the community.
Great. Thank you.
This is Dan Gravy again. The one thing that I was kind of trying to give a little thought to during the open house when I was kind of looking over some of the comments that folks had made, and of course you've heard this many times in the past, that, you know, there's a lot of the community values what is often referred to as like the small town feel of Wheat Ridge. And I think it would be useful for folks involved in this process, you know, public, you know, this group and others, to kind of try and drill down and understand what that means. And I think that it, in my mind, is associated with Wheat Ridge historically being, you know, kind of a working class and affordable community, and one that, you know, values local business. And I think it can be maybe interpreted by some folks as saying, well, it's the type of housing or, you know, type of development, but it may also at its root mean different things to people. And it's a hard thing to put your finger on, but I think that that conversation is an important one to try and kind of understand that sentiment as we kind of go through this process.
Yeah, great. Yeah, Commissioner Good, we have heard folks talking about that, that small town feel and wanting to maintain that. And that's something that we do need to dig a little bit deeper on, and maybe this next round of engagement, we can begin to flesh some of that out.
This is Commissioner Disney from District 2. One of the things that kind of goes along with the housing and affordability is the demographic is changing, but for quite a while, Wheat Ridge had a large percentage of people over 65 living in the city. And I have heard from a number of those people, and it's a problem that it exists across the country. They want to downsize, but they can't afford to move out of the house that they're in, nor can they really afford to stay in the house that they're in because of increasing insurance and tax costs. And so I guess the big thing for me, because I'm in that over 65 crowd, is hopefully, and I don't know what control we'll have over this or what say, but it seems like the next area for development is going to be the Lutheran campus, and whoever ends up buying that as a developer, how much say will the city have in saying what types of housing? I know the plan has a buffer of single-family homes around the exterior, with the inner core being mixed use and multiple family housing. But is there any hope for some sort of innovation or some way that we can encourage the developers of that property to be forward thinking in what they put there? Because it seems like there's a lot of people that want a lot of things, but I just don't know. I don't know if I'm making any sense or not, but that's my comment. How do we accommodate, as a big picture item, every demographic that can buy a house or live in a house or want to move or stay?
Great. Yeah, I do, we could certainly, I think we'll be talking about that as we move through the plan process a little bit, just in terms of there are tools that are available that maybe you can incentivize certain types of development with bonuses and other things. There's certainly tools in the toolbox that we'll have to discuss as we move through the planning process. But I think it sounds like you're more regarding housing and specifically senior housing, right? And being able to kind of age in place in terms of the community. All good stuff to be thinking about for sure. Okay. Anybody else have a big thing?
Yeah, this is Jonathan Schuelke in District 1. I think, and maybe it goes along with Daniel's small town feel kind of thing. But our inability to control traffic and how fast people drive is really a major problem for quality of life in Wheat Ridge. And I think it's a problem that we all kind of nod our head and say, yeah, that's a problem. But I have not really seen much evidence that we're doing much to change that. So to me, that's a big thing.
Commissioner, are you talking specifically about like some of the more arterial corridors, or are you talking about really just in general, and even neighborhood streets and local streets and things like that?
I'm really talking about the arterial corridors.
Okay,
And I'm very familiar with one of them that is not mentioned here, and it's right outside our door here, 29th. And 29th, since they took the traffic light out, for what reasons I don't know, that was on 29th and Fenton, 29th has become the preferred way to get downtown if you don't want to be bothered by traffic lights, pedestrian crossings, flashing speed monitors, because none of those exist on 29th. And people know that. And people make that choice when they're going downtown to take 29th. And I also know that because it's the way I go when I go downtown. And I also know that I never see a police officer in Wheat Ridge on that stretch, but I do see him in Denver as soon as I cross Sheridan. So that's my thing.
okay,
And I guess I'll just add to that, just to point out that that is one of the bike corridors as well that leads right into downtown. I take that frequently, and
Right.
I don't take it as much in Wheat Ridge as in Denver, but something to keep in mind is those two are, it's not something else that's incompatible with unsafe driving, of course.
And that's right, and that's, Sheridan is it's an artificial border, but it changes when you go across Sheridan in terms of traffic presence and what they're doing, trying to mitigate traffic
Does 29th have bike lanes?
in Denver,
Oh, in Denver, but not in Wheat Ridge.
correct.
Okay.
And I'll second that, but my comment would go more to the traffic going through neighborhoods. And I'm particularly concerned because I live on Balsam, and that leads right into Lutheran. And I cannot get anybody from the city to seem to care that 60 cars at least a week are going over 30 miles an hour down my street. And it's clearly residential, but people, and it's gotten worse, of course, since Wadsworth is being improved. But last Friday, I looked out my window and there were cars bumper to bumper all the way from 44th to 38th. It was a traffic jam on my street. That's ridiculous.
Yeah, and I mean, again, not to belabor the point, but, to kind of emphasize what Commissioner Holub had mentioned about sustainability and mobility, when you can put in place more pedestrian and bike-friendly infrastructure and invest in that type of transportation, you inherently are addressing some of those challenges with vehicle traffic at the same time. So it's kind of the other side of the coin in some respect. So I don't, that could be tied into that component of a big thing if that's going to be where we're looking at.
okay,
Talking about transportation, I might sound like the bad guy here, but transit in Denver is going downhill, and it's not what it used to be. I think we should be investing in bicycle infrastructure, e-bike infrastructure potentially, moving people on bikes and e-bikes if possible. What I've seen from RTD is that they have no money. They've been cutting back on service. If you ride the bus, it feels dangerous. It's full of vagrants, and certain corridors, especially the 15, is during certain times of the day is unusable and unlivable and unsafe. And I think transit, as much as I love transit and as much as I used to love transit, it is not what it used to be. And I don't think we should be counting on transit over the next 15 or 20 years. I think it's going to go the way of the dinosaur. And I think ultimately transit is going to transform over the next 20 to 40 years. And in 40 years, transit is going to look much different than it looks today. I think it's going to use smaller vehicles. I think it's going to be more demand responsive, almost like a Uber or a Lyft, where the transit vehicle could pick you up at your door. But until it gets there, I don't think we need to plan for a lot more transit in Wheat Ridge. In fact, I think we need to plan for less, especially from what I've seen, is RTD is cutting back service everywhere. The routes don't go as far. The 32 on my street doesn't even exist anymore.
Yeah.
So I just wanted to mention that, and I'm sorry, because I love transit and I love transit access, but the money isn't there anymore and the ridership isn't there anymore. People would just rather take a scooter or take a Lyft, and I don't blame them. It gets them to their final mile destination. So, thanks.
I think those are all valid points. I do think, just real briefly, it's worth understanding the statewide landscape on that, probably like a lot of things, because I think what you're saying is very true, and I think there's some responses happening. For instance, like just this week, there was a pretty sizable statewide effort or compromise, it's been described as, where a fee is going to be placed on oil and gas operations that is going to provide a new source of funding for transit. There's going to be a number of things statewide that do address some of the challenges that RTD has, in addition to efforts on front range passenger rail and some other things. And so I think there's a lot of validity in what you're saying, but I do think there's also going to be a response because of that same reason. And when thinking of long-term, I think it's just really important to understand the metro and statewide landscape, and being very familiar with, our metropolitan planning organizations and DRCOG and these things, because there is a lot of moving parts in that space right now.
Well, while we're talking, let's talk about protected bike lanes. To my knowledge, there are no protected bike lanes in Wheat Ridge. If you go, I'm a bike commuter to downtown. If you go downtown to Denver, there are quite a few protected bike lanes now, and they make a difference. And it's not like, they're going to stop a truck or something, but people feel better with the protected bike lanes. They feel safer with them, and they're more apt to use the streets to commute if they're there. But so far, Wheat Ridge has resisted doing that. The bikeway on 35th, I haven't seen anything with that yet. That's supposed to be a bikeway to join in with the bikeway in Denver. And I haven't seen anything done with that yet.
Well, and I think that protected bike lanes help incentivize bicycling and then also e-bike technology is really coming along rapidly. It's changing the game. You can get an e-bike for relatively affordable price, and it expands your range, and it makes people, when people buy e-bikes and invest in e-bikes, they're using the e-bikes more often. Well, they have a choice now. They have a multimodal option, and I think e-bikes should be incentivized. Bicycling should be incentivized in this plan if possible. So that, yeah, I think that's where the investment is in alternative transportation for me.
The e-bikes also extend your biking career.
Yeah.
Which is important.
Vice Chair Quinn, District 3. I think what you all are talking about, and we've kind of, in my opinion, with all due respect, we've kind of got off into the weeds. I think we're looking a little bit 50,000 foot at our big things, and we're starting to land the plane talking about a little more specifics than I think we need to at this point in time. But one big thing I think that roping this all together is infrastructure. And I think that's the big thing. One of the three large things we need to speak of or gear up for is infrastructure, including drainage, roadways, curb gutters, road width, all of these things I think we've all talked on, and how you route traffic through a city. For instance, when we were, and I don't know if you folks are the ones talking about the 38th Avenue reconstruction from Ward to, or not necessarily Ward, but from Youngfield to Kipling, changing the widths of the road, making it feel like you got to go slower, but also giving those multimodal transportation options with larger sidewalks and bike paths and designated areas. So I think that's a big thing, along with storm drainage. I know there's, and I don't know if this groups into this or not, but I know there's been scuttlebutt on creating a district for storm drain and a fee so we can start repairing some of the 60-year-old storm drains and that, because that desperately needs it. And I think to wrap up with our sustainability and housing, we need to really kind of look at a higher level how we attack that changing target with not only Lutheran coming up, but a few other places. I noticed and you guys will probably get to that here shortly, with the types of housing and where that's coming from, and the economics of that, and how we continue to spur economic growth in the city and also create good jobs to where you can work and live here and afford to do both. So with that, I yield back in respect to Mr. Grady.
Great. All right. All good things. Some new ones as well as some ones that we've heard before. We don't have any additional ones. What we'll do is the next slide, we have a few that we've heard up to this point that we're referring to as emerging big things from our steering committee meeting number 1. We can see on the left side when we asked those folks what they think the big things are. These are kind of the ones that have been bubbling to the top. And then on the right side there, you'll see what we heard from City Council and some of the big things that they had mentioned. Certainly, we talked about infrastructure, climate resiliency, sustainability, certainly in there. Retaining existing local businesses. I think that was talked about in terms of that small town character and what does that mean. Certainly the Lutheran redevelopment, being a community asset long-term, was mentioned by the steering committee. Diverse range of housing options. So you can begin to see that there's a pattern with some of the things that, even the things that you mentioned tonight, with some of the things that other people are thinking as well. So over the next month or so, we'll be kind of honing in on what we think are the things that are bubbling to the top, and we'll be bringing those back to you, I believe, on our next visit to get your input on those.
Can I ask what
Please.
successful patchwork means?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think every time this slide's been up, people have mentioned that. We've heard many times that Wheat Ridge is a place of places, that there are a number of different kind of character areas, little nodes that are kind of happening in different areas, different kind of patterns that people want to maintain. Some of them are historic kind of patterns, whether they be, existing buildings and things like that. So I don't know if Eric or Thomas, you want to add anything to that, but that's kind of how I interpreted what that means from folks thus far.
Yeah, I think it also emerged as some of the folks noted the differentiation in neighborhood typologies, different housing typologies in different parts of the city, and they thought that was an important component of who they were, that not every neighborhood, not every commercial node development looked the same. They thought that was important.
And so this is Eric from CZB. I think one of the things that's come up in conversation is that the patchwork community can sort of feel not coherent, not cohesive, and like not a single thing. And in fact, some of the conversations that we've had, people have told us, including city council, members of city council, that no, that's actually not cost, that's benefit. We like that, and we don't want to look at that as a negative thing, but rather as a positive thing. And how can we make the best patchwork quilt that essentially Wheat Ridge can be? So we think that's an interesting idea, something to play with as we go forward.
And so just to clarify, the difference between that and create cohesive sense of places, we want to keep that uniqueness of neighborhoods while creating sort of an umbrella sense of place.
Right, we could be trying, at the end of the day, we could be trying to figure out how to harmonize those two ideas, or those two ideas could be in conflict.
Okay.
Maybe it's too soon to tell.
Yeah. And I think that could also go with the new motto at the top as well that somebody had brought up. Okay.
This is Dan Gravy again, sorry, I just have one kind of quick observation. To me, it seems like the natural, like, assets, particularly the Clear Creek that Wheat Ridge, has, is something that could tie in a number of these in terms of access to that trail system, environmental leadership, climate resiliency, even small business. I mean, it seems like there's a holistic approach that can be kind of centered on what I feel is, some of our most valuable kind of natural features of Wheat Ridge. And so I think that's kind of, something to continue to kind of be centered on.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're definitely onto something there. And we've been talking about that internally as well. Yeah, it's interesting because you take Clear Creek, it's not something that somebody had mentioned as a big thing, but it came out loud and clear during the community open house that when people were identifying areas within the city that they feel kind of epitomizes Wheat Ridge, there were a lot of dots on Clear Creek. So it's certainly recognized as one of the biggest assets, and I think you're right. There's a lot of things, even on this slide here, that could be linked to the Clear Creek corridor for sure. Okay. All right, in terms of next steps, just a reminder that the online survey is open until 5 p.m. Tomorrow evening. And then engagement round number 2 will be Thursday, June 6th, from 4:30 to 6:30 at the rec center. I believe that Ella's memo to you folks invited you to attend that. And so we wanted to make sure that you had the date and the time that we kind of settled on there as well.
And just to note, that would have been a normal planning commission evening. So in lieu of that, we're inviting you to this in hopes that you can attend.
Great. Well, that's all we have. Thank you so much for inviting us to give you an update, and we'll be doing this throughout the process. And we're absolutely thrilled to be working with all of you on Wheat Ridge's city plan. And I guess we'll see you hopefully in June at the open house.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Great.
Thank you.
Thank you. Take care, everyone.
Madam Chair, before they go, a quick question. Kind of in the beginning, when we were talking about reaching out, has the city or anybody, did we try to postcard at all right before these go out? Is that an option or not? Or is that ideal? Or is snail mail showing my age?
No, it's not. So we're actually going to send out a postcard before the June phase 2. We had a really tight turnaround between when we had our kickoff steering committee and the April meeting. And so we didn't quite have enough time to get all the information we needed online in time to have a postcard be really effective. What we really like is if you get something in the mail, we want you to be able to go do something right away. So for the phase 2, we are going to do that. And it will have the website and also a QR code. One nice piece of technology that we're able to merge with the snail mail is that we're able to have a unique QR code on different kinds of outreach that we do. And then we can track how many people were looking at or came to our website based on different sources of outreach that we did. The one thing about postcards is that they are quite expensive. So it's definitely something you have to budget for very carefully. So what we're going to do is looking at the outreach or the ways that we got the word out for phase 1 and who we heard from and numbers and demographics. And then we'll look at that for phase 2 and also be able to track where people, what kind of got them to us, and be able to, if we're seeing a good increase in the numbers based on those postcards, we have budgeted to be able to do that for the 3rd phase as well. So that will emerge, and we're just trying to be very strategic with how we use that higher expense way of reaching people.
Hey, Ella, this is Jana. Could you talk about some of the other creative ways that we're going to be getting the word out? I'm thinking maybe the coasters.
Yes, so we are just trying everything we can. And we have the benefit of having our really skilled community engagement specialist, Ashley Holland, who's not joining this meeting tonight, but she is a core member of the team. So we've been using a lot of different methods. We have our own newsletters that we send out through the What's Up Wheat Ridge platform. We've been able to get articles in the last several issues of Connections. There have been a couple Neighborhood Gazette articles as well. We got a quarter-page ad in the Rooted in Fun activity guide. And then, as Jana mentioned, one of the things we've been trying is we got a bunch of coasters printed up with our QR code and the city plan logo, and delivered those to several restaurants and bars in the area in Wheat Ridge in a couple weeks before our public open house. And we got very lucky that we distributed them, and then it was one of those first really beautiful weekends. So we are hopeful that the places that have those outdoor patios got
if we've lost Ella, are you happy with the response that you've been getting? Have a lot of people been doing the survey and attending the open houses? Has the turnout been good at this stage, or could it be better?
I can speak to that a little bit. I know on the surveys, we've gotten about 300 back. Some of those are from city staff as well, of which some are residents as well. And I'm not sure about like social media. I'll have to hopefully Ella can get back on and talk about what some of the numbers are in those. But we had, at the kickoff meeting, open house, we had over 120 people, I believe, which is actually very, very good. I think it was the largest event in some time. And I think what was a bonus was all of the other, not all of the other, but a lot of the other planning type efforts were there. We had the Parks and Rec master plan. We had a table on Lutheran, a couple of others. So I think that getting all those together actually brought out more people, and then having somewhere active to do that where people could just drop in, because I think some people just dropped in from the rec center. And so that was a benefit. So, all right. Well, I don't see that Ella's rejoined yet, but we can certainly follow up with more information on that.
Well, thank you, CZB, for presenting. It was excellent as always. I expect nothing less from you guys. So we'll move on then, and thank you. You guys are dismissed, I guess. Anybody else have any comments or questions? No? All right.
Where does the Carnation Festival fall in? Is the surveying and all that going to be done before that? I don't remember the dates on the three.
Yeah.
It'll be,
Yeah, I think we've got one survey going out before the June open house, and then we'll have another one targeted before, I think it's September.
before, so there's a good opportunity there because everybody and their brother goes to that.
All right. Thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night, everyone.
All right. Next item on our agenda is old business. Do we have any old business?
No old business.
All right. Any new business?
Well, we got through item number A. Under number B is the upcoming dates, and we will have the training on May 16th. If you can come early and partake in dinner, we will be sending out the restaurant. I think it's going to be Mad Greens, if I recall correctly. And so we'll bring in dinner, and if you guys can join us at 6, that would be great. If you can't, that's understandable too. We can still get you a dinner if you'd like. And so Tammy will be sending out something via email on that with some more information. May 16th.
And we're meeting at 6?
If you can make it
Okay.
at 6 for dinner, that would be terrific. And we'll be back up on the dais. You guys will be back up on the dais, and then we'll have the city attorney here, and he's going to go over some of the standard stuff, but he hopefully will have some fresh new information too. So you'll hear about quasi-judicial and all that good stuff, but then certainly it'll be a chance for all of you to ask questions too, and we can talk about procedures, things like that, so.
Great.
And then on project and development updates, you may know or may have noticed, but the Heidi's is open over at Gold's, so please go have a sandwich. That's all I have for those.
On Gold's, it looked like also that the Illegal Pete's had the ribbon cutting. So is that open? for
Yeah,
business
Illegal
now?
Pizza's been open for a few weeks now. Yeah,
Okay, cool.
yeah.
And apparently there's some really popular bagel place in there too.
I have heard that. I haven't been able to partake in that yet, but
I have a general question, and there's a number of projects that we approved last year. One of them was I think it's the City Motel wanted to turn that into apartments. What's the status of that project?
I think you're referring to the Best Interstate Inn?
Yeah.
Okay. We haven't had any motion on that since the rezoning was approved, so I don't have any new updates on that as of yet.
And then the second one I was curious about was just recently, it was that parcel of land on 38th, just west of the assisted living. They were going to, and it looks like there's a business there now. They were going to build some townhomes there. And there's an engraving business that's opened up. And I was just curious as to what happened to that project.
I can check on that. I don't know off the top of my head which
Okay.
project that is.
I can't remember the name of it.
Yeah, that's not too far from the house either, but if I remember right, the zoning change came from the owner, and they were asking a recommendation to go to city council. I don't know if it was approved or not, to go to multi-use. Oh, what was the MU,
It would have been a mixed use.
mixed use something. But somebody had asked them, and they said that at that time they didn't have any plans to change anything because of all the money those people put in to do the engraving deal, which I thought was odd, but
I don't remember that. Okay.
Yeah, if I remember right, or I'm dreaming. one of the two.
Okay. Do we have any commissioner updates? Anybody have anything they'd like to speak up?
I just had a question to follow up on. Do you have the June dates set yet? I know we had a switch to a meeting on the 13th, I believe it is, but I didn't know if we were canceling the 6th and July 4th, I think is already canceled.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for reminding me. We are having a special meeting on June 13th. And the June 6th, again, will be taken up with the city plan event. June 20th, we had several staff members, including Tammy and I, out that we had not realized it was a planning commission date. And then we have July 4th after that, which of course is not going to meet on a holiday date. So hopefully you'll be watching some fireworks or having barbecue. But that's why we scheduled the June 13th date, to make sure that any projects that were in that kind of timeframe could get in. And we do have one item scheduled already for the June 13th meeting.
And the June 20th is canceled.
It's canceled, yeah,
Thank you.
or it will be.
Commissioner Gravy, did you have?
I had a couple quick things. One was just going to flag a Local Works event on June 1st, which is this may be premature, but it's a business block party on West 29th, so District 1. But we did this, Local Works put on a business block party they called at the Gold's Marketplace last summer. It was super well attended, and this one's going to be at the West 29th Marketplace. And so that's going to be a good time, an opportunity maybe for city plan engagement, as well as the Local Works events have been recently, been getting good attendance.
Is that June 1st?
June 1st,
Thanks.
yeah. And then I had one more comment, and I don't know, this is just simply just to flag this, something that I've noticed. And over by my part of town on 44th, there's a car wash that is being demolished just east of Harlan. And I had ran into the Mountain View mayor, and I asked her about it, and she thought that wasn't them. But that project has blocked off the sidewalk, has been fenced off as part of that demolition, which doesn't really seem appropriate considering the fact that's a major bus corridor, as well as a lot of people walk to the Walmart for groceries and things like that. And so it seemed like maybe that's not the best way to have carried out that project. So.
I can certainly mention that.
Any other updates from commissioners? If, yes,
Real quick, Chair Disney, a week ago, about right now, actually, I was involved in a car wreck.
oh,
It was a miracle. Two cars around me destroyed, and I just tagged somebody. The lesson learned from that for me is this will happen in an instant. Distracted driving, I think, caused the accident. But slow down. The reason I didn't get anything, I was going slow, old man speed. So, but my takeaway was, because I glanced away, heard a big noise, I look up and there's a car sideways in front of me, and so everyone lucky to walk away, dogs and everything else in the vehicles, but just slow down and pay attention. And I look around doing the work that I do, and people drive way too fast. Yeah. So my ask to the community is slow down. The mayor says it every time. Take your time driving through Wheat Ridge and enjoy it.
amen, thank you. We have reached the point where we are about to adjourn. May I have a motion to adjourn our meeting?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Second.
All right. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right.
Any opposed? Meeting is adjourned.